All right, welcome to this week's edition of Cantina Chronicles. We're going to cover episode 3, Time to Fly, where there are Purgles, Zatoichi technique, Jason Syndulla, classic space battles, and much, much, much more.
Covers it all.
Yeah, guys, good to see you. What's good with episode 3? What's good? What do you guys like?
I'm liking everything, honestly.
Yeah. I know we're trying to be all new. Our new want is to be like, we can get critical on here, and I'm sure stuff will come out, but I kind of love this episode. It's kind of the perfect episode. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, it's very A New Hope, right? Like,
it harkens back to my favorite moment in A New Hope.
Sorry, completely derail us. I had a moment of thought when we were watching this episode, my wife and I. Okay. And I have not practiced this out, so I'm just going to freewheel it here.
All right.
I have this weird thought that Filoni is doing a tone poem to A New Hope, and that over these 8 episodes, the timing is going to time out pretty close to the major events of A New Hope, which is, similar to what Lucas likes to do. Oh. Because we had our first major space battle, very similar to what happens when they escape Tatooine, right? When they first leave Tatooine, we get that. And we know in the next episode they're going to infiltrate the Eye.
The Eye of Sauron.
Right?
Well, they could ride a Purgle at this point now that we've seen them, so it's...
They could. They absolutely
at
could.
At this point.
But no,
it's either so the Eye or
but if
Purgle, so...
Yeah, and so I'm wondering if it times out to infiltrate the Death Star in A New Hope. I'm really starting to have this new tinfoil hat of just of how
that wouldn't end well for
Ahsoka when the major lightsaber battle
mirrored A New Hope too closely.
Well, I don't think it's a perfect mirror, but they're gonna have the two of them fight right around probably the same time that you have Obi-Wan and
Vader.
Darth Vader fight in A New Hope. That's my new
Wild.
thought.
Said Vader.
It seems like
Adam coming in hot to
Filoni. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I knew I had something.
I do love the kendo training scene in this. Just all the training stuff in this episode. And it is the whole your eyes deceive you. Don't trust them.
But with the blast shield down, I can't see anything.
It's it felt like Obi-Wan. It felt awesome. And then I just love how Ahsoka. I like how Ahsoka tells her to concentrate and kind of focus on the moment.
Yeah.
And I think Obi-Wan at one point tells Luke to lose track of his conscious mind at one point. And I think it was interesting because that's kind of the opposite message. And it's interesting that to see the different teaching styles. But I think Ahsoka's breaking through. I think Sabine is probably going to wield the Force or just do something pivotal at a pivotal moment.
The cup seem to be
you're saying, Adam.
Yeah.
A New Hope.
Yeah.
I mean, with her trying, Sabine trying to move the cup was you kind of were is she going to do this right now? And it definitely set up something for later. She's that's round 1 cup.
Can I call something right now? It's a crazy theory.
Please.
Can we just do a quick theory right away?
Let's do all the theories all the time.
What if it's taking out Thrawn? Because Thrawn, we know how Thrawn dies in the Heir to the Empire books, and it's there's a massive spoiler here for the Heir to the Empire trilogy before we enter this sector of space. But Rook kills Thrawn.
Right.
Yeah.
And it might be interesting if Sabine and all this training and basically her on the rear gunner of the T6 is all the proof I need that she has the Force, because she is just annihilating starfighters. And I'm just thinking what if it is the crucial shot that stops Thrawn or to end Thrawn? You know what I mean? To me, that's almost
absolutely.
That would be awesome, because it's
wouldn't that
disruptor weapons, tie advance, all that stuff is Black Ops projects, and it's the sort of criminal activity of the Empire. And I feel that's Thrawn probably is in agreement with those sorts of things. That's what makes Thrawn a villain in a lot of ways. And sort of those R&D projects, I imagine, are just used for horrific things.
Yeah. So are you suggesting she might take a 1 in a million shot that pays out?
Yes.
Pays off? Where have we seen that before?
Okay.
Again.
Wow. We really set up a good backbone for this episode and a bunch of other things to come. I mean, we know Sabine is like, she's the Padawan in the situation, and like, you know, getting so much guff from Ouyang, which is like, he's the star character from the show to me.
She really is. Just all.
But he's just like, you're terrible. You're literally the worst in 20,000 years. You're the worst. just like, but like Sabine is an elite fighter. Like she picked up the, you know, using a lightsaber when she had to. She defeated the toughest Mandalorians to like rescue her family. She's constantly, you know, just like toying with Imperials. She's incredible. And I think that's probably why she was brought on as a Jedi trainee. Cause it's like, well, you know, let's see what you can do with some Jedi training.
Let's see how far your skills go and how deep they go. And like, I do like this idea. Like, again, it's the earliest stuff we learn in Star Wars is that the Force is in all of us, right? And I love that moment with Ahsoka talking about that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, all of us could wield the Force or everyone can wield the Force, but that it's there, right? And like even some people can tap into it in different ways. And I was really anti Sabine having the Force when I first started seeing previews. And I'm not quite sure why, which is interesting, right? Like I have to maybe like interrogate myself a little bit why I was so. I think it's just because watching so much of Rebels, it just seemed like it would break Rebels in a weird way, right?
I'm with you, dude.
Push back on that? Are you pushing back on that, Ben?
No, I'm going to echo it. So you go first, Grant.
Okay, I would just say that when she does train with Kanan at one point when she's... it's a mirror to this episode, actually, where I think when she thinks of her family and she gets extremely emotional, she actually can tap into the Force, and it's debatably the dark side.
Yes.
And like, that's what's cool about her character in a lot of ways. And I feel like that happens in this episode. Like, she starts, you know, fighting with more ferocity, and like, Ahsoka knocks her off. It's actually my favorite moment of the episode when she's like, you know, anger and frustration will grant you power in the moment, but like it will knock you out of balance. And it's such a good line. I was like, this is the best line of the episode. And
it's such a great line about the
and
dark
it's a
side.
very different take on the dark side, where it's not just like, ooh, it's a dark path of bad. She's like, no, it'll unbalance you.
Yeah, and it seduces you. It's like, no, it just makes it easy.
It's easy, but it will unbalance you. Like the real bad part is it's like you're not going to be thinking clearly, and like it's a very tactile description of why the dark side is bad, which we don't get a lot. It's just like, it's just bad. Don't worry about it. But Grant, I love that you brought that up, because I noticed the same thing. It was like when she finally did like, you know, start wielding the darksaber well and defeat Kanan Jarrus in training. It was because she was like really dipping into her emotions and getting really mad at her situation and at herself, and all. Like she was like going straight to the dark side, like you're saying, and then she was clearly doing it again here with Ahsoka and seeing some results, and that's fascinating, right? It's like
it's almost like where a lot of her power is, and like it might be the conduit upon which, you know, the output for her power, basically.
All right. Which, I mean, so two things. One, like I've come back around in these 3 episodes of like, if Sabine ends up being Force sensitive or being a Jedi, I'm cool with it. Like they're taking it down the path in the way that I'm like, yep, it takes a while to unlock. She doesn't have natural talent, right? But she has this block. The other thing is like, so again, it is very much similar to A New Hope. This is not, I was not thinking of this before, but it's just like, you know, Obi-Wan being reluctant to train Anakin because he has too much of his father in him. Right? And so now we have another person who was trained by Anakin Skywalker who might be kind of doing the opposite of like seeing the dark side in Sabine, seeing her use her passion and fury to do this and wanting to be like, well, I can't save Anakin. I can't steer Anakin away from the dark side, but maybe I can steer someone else away, right? Like,
well, in a later moment, again, this episode might be a mirror for a larger macro story of the season, which is later in this episode. Ahsoka just trusts in Sabine at a moment.
I love that moment.
Let's the Padawan lead the master, and I was like, this is so exciting, and basically the teamwork sort of changes, the dynamic changes instantaneously, and it's so cool to see Sabine, you know, call for the maneuver and Ahsoka follow that order, and it was just teamwork in the best light. And I thought it was just beautifully sort of displayed teamwork and how teamwork can work. When you support each other.
I wanted to talk more about like Sabine and just dealing with the Force. And also, so I don't want to see her use the Force. I just love to see this as sort of like a test case of what happens when an elite Jedi trains a non-Force sensitive user. And sort of just see how that plays itself out. Like if suddenly she can unlock the Force, like that like opens up so many possibilities. That's like, it's a Pandora's box of like, no, anyone can have the Force. And I don't know, it just seems to water down the gravity of the selection. And I feel it really needs to be like, yes, she can discipline herself like a Jedi and that's very important. Yeah. But I'd like to be able to be like, now you can just sort of like pop the lock on the Force and like, then you can do whatever you need. It just sort of cheapens it to me a little bit.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. It does to me.
Like she of all people would be able to do it because she's already so gifted as a sort of like tinker and craftsman and sort of like.
But then like every time we find another gifted person,
she already uses the Force.
We have to think about like, are they going to be Force sensitive? Like every time we find like a super gifted person, like that'll always be.
But she cracked that droid's like, like she cracked the HK unit. Why can't she crack the Force? Like. I think that is the sort of the hard wall that Filoni's putting up in front of. It's actually classic. Like it's this classic sort of meditation on, the physical versus the metaphysical.
I also think like Sabine was blatantly using the dark side, and if there was any possibility, or if there was in any way that Sabine was actually using the Force and going to the dark side, Ahsoka would have been much more put out than just like, you probably shouldn't do that. Like I don't think Ahsoka thinks that there's any way in the galaxy that Sabine's going to actually be able to wield the Force. I don't know.
Again, that's why I love that's why I love the kill shot theory, where it's just that 1 in a million shot, like the New Hope.
I'm wondering if the story might be kind of threading the needle of like what we've talked about is like you are not Force sensitive, but the Force is working through you.
Yeah.
Right. Like similar to how it works through Han Solo. Right. I also think, Ben, you're probably right because of now I'm doing like the whole macro looking at how we advertise things. And so we saw on the preview, we see her draw a lightsaber to herself. Right. Remember that moment? We've seen it in a preview.
It does happen. Yeah.
So that's why, Ben, you're right. Because you don't do all this and then show that, because then we're all now going, well, of course she has the Force. We've seen that scene. So I still think we're going to have the cheat scene on that, where either like Ahsoka is off screen throwing it to her,
or she put magnets and fakes it,
or she puts a magnet or something like that. Like that's so that's why I'm kind of like with
she's
you.
Like
I mean,
Batman.
I am with you ideally. Yeah, she's like Batman.
Building all these
gadgets
to be a Jedi.
Which is how her story is in Rebels, right? Like she becomes the reason why she can actually beat others with the darksabers, because she starts fighting like a Mandalorian, right? Which is all these gadgets.
Right. And also they've set the groundwork for it with Nanjiani's character in Obi-Wan, where it's like, you do parlor tricks and feign it, but I could definitely see Sabine being like, okay, I want to be able to do this. I can't trust the Force to help me with it, but I can make it happen, and so I'm gonna rewire my Mando suit and do the thing.
I forgot about that.
I forgot about that too. Yeah, that scene in the trailer. See, like the trailers showed kind of too much. I don't know. There was a lot in there, but like it's a little cat and mouse game, right? I also that training sequence is called Zatoichi, which if you spell it out is the same thing as Zatoichi, and I'll never miss an opportunity to flex that I watched Zatoichi. Which is this amazing Japanese samurai series with a blind swordsman, where the director is the main character and plays the blind swordsman Zatoichi. It's just, if you ever get a chance to watch it, it is fantastic. But I loved that nod there.
We ran a word count of Zatoichi on our podcast. Turns out we've said it 5,000 times.
5,000 times. I will never miss an opportunity. I love that show so much, and I'm so proud of myself.
No, I think we've mentioned Zatoichi, more than most podcasts, I would say.
Yeah.
I'd say that's a safe bet.
So we've got that going.
I have
for
still
us.
said it 0 times.
I'm surprised we haven't talked about the soothing droid noises in the beginning of this episode. Like, are you guys more like Uba people from the prequels, or are you now converted into the Yate people? The Huyang.
Huyang. I'm converted. I'm way converted.
I'm not.
I loved that training sequence.
Uba.
Just still the top.
Yeah. But I mean, don't get me wrong. Huyang's amazing. That is awesome.
I feel like we're spoiled with Huyang because we like understand the context for him. I feel like I can tell you he's a 20,000-year-old droid, but that doesn't really like hit home. Like I said it last episode, but he's a treasure. He's maybe the most valuable thing to the Jedi Order that exists. And it's so cool to see him do anything, especially lightsaber training. Like Grievous, where he gets his Grievous arms out, and then it's like, oh.
I know. So it is amazing. It also is just like, it's like having having an episode where someone's walking around with a, I don't know, like a Ming Dynasty face. And you're just sitting there going like, don't drop it. Right? Because like literally I'm watching this episode and he gets shocked and like, he gets like electrocuted and like powers down. I'm like, do you just kill a 20,000-year-old droid? Like, what are we doing? Why are you bringing this guy out on missions? Like, he should be in a museum. He belongs in a museum.
I don't think we're going to get any explanation on him, which is, it'll probably be, it feels like a comic and it'll be like, oh, it was, delving
I think
into
we brought up last week where we were thinking, why isn't he at Luke's temple? Why isn't he just helping to sort of start the planning there, build the
new Jedi Order,
Jedi training facility, design the combat grounds, the lightsaber training arena, what have you. I imagine he has the schematics for a lot of the designs for those things.
Right, and I stand by my argument that I think Luke doesn't know he exists, and Ahsoka's keeping him to herself selfishly.
That's great because then Ahsoka wants him to start completely fresh because she doesn't believe in standard Jedi protocol.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which
it would make sense she wouldn't trust
like,
Luke, right? Because she's like, well, I know what your father did. And you seem like a nice guy and all, but so was Anakin Skywalker. So, yeah, good luck to you.
It's so fascinating. Like, we just need an exploration of the Ahsoka Luke relationship in some form because I need to know, because it could be any of these things, right? Like, it could be like, you are our new hope, our only hope, and I'm not going to weigh you down with all of the things that weighed me down, so start new. Or Ben, like you're saying, like, no, I'm keeping everything away from this dude because of who his father is.
He's sus. Luke is sus.
Like, either way.
What were you going to say, Grant? Before the show, you were saying like, where is Luke? Like, did you want to talk about that?
I'm just thinking, especially when Hera, I think we're at the scene now where Hera's talking to Chancellor Mothma and Senator Ziono.
Did you guys get that reference?
Yeah.
As his dad, right?
Super deep cut. I'm like, really? I didn't think Resistance.
Dude, we got a Resistance
That's a reference to Star Wars Resistance, which we covered a long time ago.
Yeah.
In a galaxy
did.
far from
episode.
Yeah, we went through the whole thing, man. I mean, I'd like to say, hey, you definitely need to watch it because I say that about everything, but I got to say, you really don't. You really don't. There is a lot of cool lore stuff that happens in Star Wars Resistance, and the characters are fantastic. And it's occasionally very funny, but it's aimed towards a much younger audience. But some of the most valuable content because we have nothing. It's like it's like right before the new First Order blossoms. Yeah. And it's interesting, but you do.
There is major First Order stuff in the show.
Yes, major. Yep. And cool First Order stuff too. Yeah. And there's also Matt the Technician stuff, which is kind of funny as well. The radar technician. Right. So Kaz Ziono is the main character. The Senator Ziono, who's butting heads with Hera, we see in live action. He's a jerk in Resistance, and he's a jerk in Ahsoka.
Yep. Yeah.
Talk about oligarch, right? Like total oligarch dude.
I know.
He just doesn't get it. Oh, but like, how sick was that burn though? Where she's just like, "Oh, I'm sorry. What were you doing during the war? You just sitting it out to see who came down?" It was just like nothing. Yeah, he should have committed separate right there. No, you didn't do anything. All right, tough as nails. Love that.
Yeah, I always just expect like Mon Mothma to like look at the camera and like the Office like theme music to start playing or like Curb music like. I just feel bad for the New Republic at this point. Like it just seems like a slow moving,
train wreck.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. They had to establish it that way, but it's like, can't we just get our utopia for like 5
I'm like, no, but
minutes?
this is where I was like, send Luke.
I know.
Like, where this is now we're to my point where I'm like, okay, you can't get permission to send the fleet. What about Luke? Like Luke Skywalker?
Yeah.
Like, that seems like someone.
What about Luke effing Skywalker and Han Solo and like
Han
those?
Solo would probably be interested in this.
Or Lando Calrissian. Like these are the people that you're like, when you need to get stuff done, you contact them and they're like, oh yeah, we don't need any like permissions. We're gonna go do this thing. Like they are OP. Will do whatever they want. Will always get the job done. Like I mean, Ahsoka's fantastic, but it's like I feel like my understanding of Star Wars.
It's just about an assist. It's only just about an assist.
Yes.
And what can you offer? And it's like, I don't know, A-wings. The A-wings that flew by, I don't know, one Nebulon freighter or frigate with some A-wings. Like I don't know, not the whole fleet. We don't need the fleet. I don't think.
Right.
That was what was confusing to me. But
yeah. I mean, it is odd. Like I mean, the funny thing is the Trinity, the Luke, Leia, Han thing doesn't bother me as much because of the timeline stuff. Like Leia's on Coruscant, I think.
Mm-hmm.
No, we have
She's
no
probably
idea.
preggers.
Pregnant or just have had. So I think Han's probably homebody with her as well, and not really doing it. Luke, I mean, we saw him in Book of Boba Fett, like right up against this. Like he is like monk Luke at this point. Like that is my theory. Is like he's like, I don't care. I'm not getting involved in galactic politics. I'm I'm trying to restart the Jedi Order. This is not what I'm doing, right? I'm busy like with my ant droids building.
That makes sense. Like they're all doing me time for a while. Like they earned some me time,
but like,
and they're doing it. Yeah.
Lando. Like Lando is the one where I'm like, Lando is the guy that if you would need to get a mission done, is call Lando. The other thing is, have you heard of someone called Wedge Antilles in Rogue Squadron?
Yeah,
I read. I know it's not canon, but I read a lot of books where this would be.
I know,
perfect
or
for that.
Alphabet Squadron.
Yeah, Alphabet Squadron.
Like, one squadron to help with those starfighters that they immediately
The
became
name
engaged with when they arrived at the very far periphery of the system. I was like, oh wait, the fighters are just there? Okay, like all right, well,
yeah. I have to say, I think my favorite squadron, because each of the member has like such a distinct personality, and we read the trilogy, it would be Alphabet Squadron. That would be my chief cameo that I'd want to see. Like if Hera's like, okay, like I see you need backup, I'm sending Alphabet Squadron, and they're like, Alphabet who? And then we get like Kyros and all those like sick characters, and like
it's
Chaz to Nachazi,
Nachazi,
Yeah, I like those books. I as a person who like favorites are the Rogue Squadron series. I'm just every time I was
it's
reading,
like Wedge
really
Antilles and a bunch of randos, though, right?
I think those books have some of the best planet names and world building and descriptions for like space combat. Like I love the Pandem-Nai and like Necronis and like all these crazy crazy worlds. Like I love just sort of the descriptions.
And the funny thing is, like, you are right that they're ripe to have a visual cameo, because it's odd that the conceit of their squadron is so visually appealing, and yet it happened in a book, right? To have them, each one is a different style starfighter. It's like this is meant to be on the screen because it's so easy to distinguish.
It looks so good cinematically too, because it would be all the different fighter shapes, like all the silhouettes just like drifting around each other. Oof.
Didn't the Imperial actually fly a TIE fighter too, or was she flying a? She was the X-wing pilot.
She was a TIE fighter turn X-wing pilot?
Turned X-wing, right?
Yeah, I think
X-wing,
so,
B-wing, U-wing, A-wing.
And there's that Soren Keys guy. That was a great villain in those books. Anyways, but anyways,
I digress.
T6, they're on their own, and like T6 they have. But before that, though, we get Hera leaves the meeting after just like serving up, sick burns. She leaves the meeting, and we meet him, guys.
We meet the kid. Jason, what do you think Jason's last name is? It Syndulla or Jarrus or Syndulla Jarrus or Jason Jarrus sounds great. Syndulla. I just got to say, but like, yeah, probably Jason Syndulla.
I think Syndulla, since father's out of the picture.
How do we all feel about that? I loved that moment. I was like, Yes.
Yeah.
I did too. I think it's a very fertile moment because like we didn't get many lines from Jason, though it is adorable if you're a Rebels fan. His like best buddy is Chopper, and like that tracks, right? Like the kids love playing with Chopper. That was what
Sure.
Yeah.
Zeb
Totally.
and Ezra did. They grew up with Chopper and all that as well, so that's cute. But like the one thing he said, he's like, I want to be a Jedi. And I was like, and she's like, sure you do, buddy, and like ruffles his hair. Like, what's that about?
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird, especially because his dad is a Jedi. So just like, you think she would take that?
Well, he's like Aunt
true.
Sabine's becoming a Jedi, and like
he's like, I want to.
He also wants to become a Jedi, and Luke is starting a school, I imagine, around this time, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
I don't know, man. I just haven't finished the old EU. It's rough to hear a kid with his name Jason say, "I want to be a Jedi." I'm like, no,
right? Because Jason was the one that turned, right? Jason Solo. And I mean, that could.
Yeah.
I don't know. Jason wasn't in the comic books surrounding Ben Solo / Kylo Ren. When they, the few, then that was the only time they showed the school. But he could be there, and he could turn to the dark side before that happens, or something, But I just think it's like a little. It's interesting, and it's a little sad that Hera's like Hera knows at least one Jedi, and she's like, no effing way.
Yeah.
Which is like, and I bet he has probably more force aptitude than Sabine does. So I don't know what's going on there.
Well, Kanan also sacrificed himself, and he was a Jedi, and Jedi are, ultimately
Selfless.
Servants and are known to be selfless and known to sacrifice themselves.
So it could just be protection, where she's like,
so she's like, I just want a life with my son. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And she's probably like hokey religions ancient.
She has known 3 Jedi personally, and all 3 of them have sacrificed themselves. Kanan sacrificed himself. Ahsoka sacrificed herself. She just happened to be rescued through some weird mystical thing. And Ezra sacrificed himself, right? So I would be like, no, you are not a Jedi, because Jedi killed themselves.
I think she knew. I think she knew Anakin as well. I think there was a young herasyndulla on Ryloth in some of those Ryloth episodes.
Her father was
but
in
I
those
don't know
episodes.
if she was. There was a different.
Yeah, I don't
Twi'lek.
think there was a different Syndulla, but like it would track that she was at least aware or had met. Yeah, you could definitely like retcon it.
Chopper fought in the Clone Wars, so they had to be around. I mean, I'm sure she.
Yeah. So then the other thing is like, so the fourth Jedi she didn't necessarily sacrifice himself, but went evil and killed everyone.
Yeah. So not a great tracker here. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's where I was leaning too, where she's just like, nope, you're my son, and you're going to be safe forever because I'm tired of losing people.
Yeah, you're going to be a pilot. Being a space pilot, being a fighter pilot is safer than being a Jedi.
And I bet he'd be a great one. He's got great genes. He's got like Ben Solo genes.
It would be fun if he gets that like secret side training from Luke or something, where he is like a Jedi, but he never officially became one or something. Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah.
I would love that.
They got to bring back Plo Koon.
That's fun. Laying groundwork.
Or Mace Windu.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked enough, or long enough, without talking about Zero-G spacesuit lightsaber battle.
This is where you want to go, huh?
I love it.
How do we feel about this?
I've always said secret sauce is like the hard sci-fi stuff. I've always said like that's what Star Wars is all about. Secret. It's like got some super hard science fiction.
Yeah.
This is woven in.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. The moment where she's like floating away was a little like
that was
it was a little slapsticky.
That was funny.
It was a little comical sort of like,
did you fix the ship yet?
Okay, I'm getting like
she floats by.
I'm getting shades of like General Hugs, but whatever.
I thought this joke hit though. Like this one kind of hit. I was like, oh yeah, nice. Like Sabine's just kind of like gathering herself, and like, she just floats by.
And like Filoni spent the time to like figure out how they're gonna actually wrangle her back in the ship, and it was really cool. Like the spinning, the wings, and it just like grabbed her and brought her in. Artificial gravity created by like centrifugal force or centripetal force.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was pretty cool. My thing is though, lightsaber corner, is that like it looked like suddenly she wasn't carrying her lightsabers anymore. And I kind of hope she lost them. because like maybe she's got a backup set or she needs to create a new set. But it looks like she got hit pretty hard, and I don't know if she tucked them away into her spacesuit somewhere, but it was like they were ominously missing all of a sudden when she, from that last hit to like when she got back into the starship.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure it's probably just she just stuffed them in a pocket or something, and they're fine.
Probably
because it'd be a weird beat to just add in there, but I don't know. She's just like, I guess I've got to use these old ones, and busts out the like green and yellow like classics she used to have. But I think she left them behind when she left the Order, and then Anakin tuned them up and made them blue lightsabers, and then she left them behind at the end of season 7. Yeah.
Sorry.
And that concludes Lightsaber Corner.
That's lightsaber. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out too. Like, it would be odd, especially because like the way it ends. So she would have had to have packed them with her, because they're now stuck on this planet, and they're clearly going to have. I mean, anyway, I won't talk about previews, but regardless of previews, we are going to have a lightsaber battle on this planet.
Well, there is a guy
it'd be weird
saying
that she travels with multiple.
At the end.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So we get it. Yeah, there's definitely gonna be some action in the woods. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Balin's skull oddly hands off. He's just like, you do everything. You and Marok, who I'm becoming more and more convinced is just a droid, like a gifted droid. I don't know. Like why does he have such a heavy vocal?
I would love that.
On his voice.
I would like if he just remains a faceless, sort of like ominous.
Me too. That's kind of like, don't give me anything. Yeah.
He's an inquisitor that made it and got absorbed by Balin and his team. Yeah.
I like the idea of Ahsoka having been the one who took down the Inquisitorius. That's like my favorite plan.
Yeah.
And the more and more I watch this show, the more and more I'm like, she's the one that heals everything. She heals her saber crystals. Like, she heals the galaxy. Yeah. Like, people are just terrified of her because she's the ultimate healer.
Right.
And
I mean,
that's why she's holding Yang. It's a healing. Luke doesn't need the standard Jedi protocol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe Luke wants to just start over. And not have that protocol. I think we talked about that last week too.
Well, and Luke doesn't have the baggage, right? Like, that's the thing. It's like Luke, like, it's weird to me to think that Luke exists in a galaxy where he might have to deal with Inquisitors. Doesn't that seem weird? And so, which to me, because like he's forward looking, right? Like he's now in the galaxy post Sith, post Dark Jedi. So it makes sense that you have someone like Ahsoka looking backwards. Like, she's the one that has to like take care of the remaining, cut out the remaining infection, which are all the Inquisitors and these Dark Jedi that are
right. Because you've got around. So Luke has really got rose-colored glasses on about the whole Jedi thing, right? He doesn't really know what the Clone Wars was. He was taught by Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi, the two like most like white knight Jedi there ever were. So he's like, well, they're pretty good people. And then even his dad, who is allegedly the worst, Sith there ever was, came around to the light side again under his watch. So he's like,
and killed the Emperor.
Right. He's like, so how hard is this? Like, how dark could it possibly get? Like, he's just like, what could possibly go wrong? Is like kind of his Jedi outlook, which is, I mean, that's one of Luke's best charms, I think, is his naivete. But
which is also leads to like really a ton more interesting interactions that we could have between Luke and Ahsoka, because Luke has these rose-colored glasses, just like and like putting the Jedi on a pedestal, and meanwhile you have Ahsoka going, the like the teachings of the Jedi are wonderful. That order was really not doing great at the end there. Yeah. Like, I walked away from it for X, Y,
real
and Z.
Reasons.
Yeah. And all of that illustrates that even the good guys, even these kind of like virtuous, guardian monks, like when they become too big, it becomes almost authoritarian. Like, it becomes almost like they're involved in everything, and they're actually impacting everything in the galaxy. And the heft of that is a lot to bear, and they're very strict with their members, and it becomes almost too bloated at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slippery slope, right? It's like the Jedi are whatever we need them to be, right? But so like that, I mean, that can descend into a pretty authoritarian thing very quickly, where it's like, well, we need peacekeepers and aid givers, and it's like, well, things are all right, and now this is Force, and now you need to be, I mean, they just slid right into generals, like military generals, and then like, where do you go from there? It's like, it just gets darker and darker from that. It's like there was no pull where it's like, where they were like, you know what, we're too deep into this.
Well, Luke also threw away his saber in Return of the Jedi, and so why ever pick it back up? Like, almost your order could be actually far more passive and far more, you know, into the idea of helping people and rather than hurting people and
helping, mediating,
exactly.
Right?
Using the Force to hold people static and solve disputes. If without cutting someone down. Yeah,
right. So. I mean, is the lightsaber paradox? Is that the right word for it? Like, where it's just sort of like,
if it's
you're supposed to be peacekeepers, but it's like the most deadly weapon you could hold.
Yeah, you're carrying a weapon.
Yeah.
It's always been weird to me. Like, lightsabers have always been weird to me.
It's also a deadly.
Like, I love them. They're so cool, but they're so weird when you think about these. And you get the Yoda like only for defense, which I'm like, that's good.
But then you saw Yoda as a murder machine against the clones, like infiltrating the temple, and you're like, whoa!
He beheaded some people. That was not
throws it through a chest and then lands on it and pulls it out. It's like, whoa, bro!
Yeah, he was going straight up offense.
Yeah, that was not defense.
There. I mean, I will say I do love the fact that in Rise of Skywalker that she literally wins the entire thing is won only through defense.
Yeah.
That's that's a moment where I'm like, we can talk about the flaws of that movie, but like that to me is like straight Jedi. Yeah. Like all she does is just block it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, there's another theory.
Redirect
it.
That's all she does.
I was like, I think you might get some Anakin or something in Ahsoka's journey, and not in this series per se, but just in the journey.
Maybe in this series.
Post mandoverse,
yeah,
because he might explain that he was wrong about a lot of things, and that the Jedi were actually, he right about almost all their teachings with him. Just
it'd be
Anakin was actually just had too many intense emotions, given his mother died horrifically, was a slave and not freed, and he was taken away from her. Like, obviously there's so much trauma there that Lucas is trying to set up, but I feel like it's just lost, kind of like you just don't really feel a lot of that. But it's like that's I guess there that you're supposed to kind of, eventually he should tell someone about that. His story.
It would be cathartic. It would be cathartic for me,
for her especially.
Yeah, for her, but it would be cathartic for me to see Hayden Christensen on the other side of death. It was like reaching apotheosis. He's now a Force ghost, and reflecting back and understanding full well all the mistakes that were made in his full journey, and passing whatever knowledge needs to be passed on to Ahsoka. Like that would be extremely powerful.
Which is to restore which is that the Jedi weren't inherently bad, like, and weren't inherently idiotic or too controlling or oppressive.
Yeah, but that's it's this weird, like, it's this moment in Return of the Jedi that was like so beautiful when you first see it, of just like Anakin appearing right at the very end in Force Ghost mode
smirking
to Luke.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh yeah, the
FUS. I mean,
It's great.
But it's this beautiful moment, right? And then you're just like, especially if you watched it when it was just the first three movies, like, no prequels, no anything. It's just like this amazing moment at the end. And now you add everything on top of this, and you just think of like, oh no, that is like hell. Like, he is a ghost who is now like is corporeal, or non-corporeal, but can be around and is sentient, because it seems like Force ghosts are sentient and able to think and ponder. And so now he is forced to wander the galaxy, thinking about all of the horrible things he did as Darth Vader. Like, it's really kind of like, when you start really thinking about it, it's rough. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, now that I feel better about him being able to be a Force ghost, because like,
no, he got the dub against the Emperor though. So like the Force ghosts are like,
nice.
Sure, that's good.
Nice.
So do you think sure. So do you think all like the Force ghost younglings show up and go like, it's cool, it's all right. Don't worry about slaughtering all of us.
There's like, if you buy Anakin's like episode 3 lightsaber, they can't always just call them Anakin for like reasons, so they're called Youngling Slayer, which I think is kind of rough. But hilarious, but awful, but
amazing.
Awesome. So
great.
help me.
That's why he's ultimately an unlikable character.
Yeah. But help me remember something. So we did get canon Force Ghost Anakin in Shadow of the Sith. Is that the name of the novel?
I believe so, yes.
With Luke, and Anakin comes to Luke's rescue on Exegol, no less, I think. And
so.
but so I'm kind of intrigued by the idea of Anakin sort of flipping back and forth his Force Ghost between Darth Vader and Anakin, almost like it's a split personality. Yeah. And but I don't think that happened exactly. We got Anakin, but then he was like overcome, like there was like a dark side wave or something, and like he had to like he used the dark side or something like that.
I don't think he did. I think he was influenced by it because it was Exegol, is my memory. Because like because I think it's pretty clear that like Force Ghosts are Force Ghosts, and they're only light side, and otherwise you're a Sith Wraith. Right. Is it the Wraith?
I've said that a couple times in the pod in the last couple of weeks. I'm very excited.
Yeah,
you guys are getting me excited.
Cantina Chronicles bingo. You got Sith Wraith and you got Zatoichi.
Yeah.
I know. I am all for a Darth Vader Sith Wraith going around. Like, give us both. I want a Darth Vader Sith Wraith and a Anakin Force Ghost.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Wait, so how does this voyage look if they do go to this new galaxy? Like, or they will, obviously. They're going. I see this show a lot like Interstellar. Like when you guys are trying to like find comps earlier, I was like, to me, this is like Interstellar, and like Sabine and Ahsoka are like the father-daughter relationship in there almost, but like it's the master-apprentice relationship here, and it's like at some pivotal moment, those two are going to have to connect in some way through the Force to solve something. Obviously, in that movie, it's get home, and then in this, it might be, I don't know, something else, threading the needle to save Ezra or something cool. But I imagine, but I see a major comparison to that movie. Just
no, that's a great comparison. I have to, my vote is they don't our heroes don't use the Eye of Sion or Eye of Sion. I don't know exactly the name.
Yeah, that's right.
I think they harness. I think they like strap their ship to one of those giant purgles and ride a purgle out.
Ooh, the T6. It gets nestled in like
just like latches onto the back of one.
The gill.
Yeah,
it fits in the gill.
Something. I don't know. But I think they take a purgle ride out there because I don't understand. I don't know how else they would.
Well, that's the whole thing, right? I'm like, now that they've seen purgles in this episode, it's now there's two branches to the story now. Like I was like just that Eye of Sion. That's it. That's the only way they're gonna get out there. But now that I've seen purgles, I'm like, well, that opens up another path for anyone to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that idea. My only thought of why they're gonna end up infiltrating and stowing aboard the Eye of Sion is because of the whole thing of Huyang having to scan and get all the schematics for it. Like, what purpose does that serve?
I think I think we all knew what was going on with the Eye of Sion, but I think Filoni needed to tell the audience at large what this really was and what was going on. I just think they needed to explain it.
All right.
They needed to explain purgles, and they needed to explain the Eye of Sion. Like, we knew all that ahead of time. We're like, yeah. Let's get to the next thing. But like, I think storytelling wise, they needed to like, all right, this is how we're going to explain this to the lay audience.
But I mean, they've set it up pretty clearly that they're trying to go to another galaxy, and that this thing has, and they even talk about how they have so many
hyperdrives,
giant hyperdrives, and that could get them really, really far, really, really fast. So it seems like there's enough there to then have them randomly encounter the purgles and them talk about the purgles being interstellar travelers. I don't know. Like, I just feel like the only reason that there is because it's going to play into the next episode, the episode after, where they're able to use the schematics to find a blind spot and sneak on board.
I have a feeling,
but I mean,
they might split the difference. Like, some might be on it, and then they get chased by Huyang and Sabine or something.
Like, that's true. What do I want to see? I want to see them strapped to a purgle.
They'll be like a remora fish, right? Like, they'll just like have some claws on the landing feed gear or something like that, and it'll.
So I'm picturing it like a speeder. So they actually have one. They're strapped. They're strapped to two of them.
Untowed. Oh, like a pod racer.
like a pod racer. So they're using each
They're
one
each
as
holding
an
a
engine.
tentacle from like 2, and then they just like
exactly.
out there.
Yeah. That's
Oh
what
my
I'm
gosh, that's
picturing.
amazing. First of all, or not first of all, 10th of all, the Purgles looked amazing, right? Like live action Purgles,
so
they
good.
were
Yeah,
gorgeous.
really, really good. Yeah,
I love that whole action sequence. I just think Dave Filoni is a master at the action set piece. Just even how the T6 flies towards the Eye of Sion, gets shot by the, first the starfighters, then the turbo lasers, then gets kind of, enters decommission after it's passed through the ring. Like this, the thought process behind the action set piece stuff, I think is just really, really smart in terms of design. Yeah.
It's so good. It looks amazing. Like So
fighting amongst Purgles,
I'm gonna do,
like that was so great.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm gonna do the thing where I like lower something else to raise another for a second, just to make an example of this. Why does the effects of this look so amazing and the Flash looked like hot trash? When the Flash had spent like 10 times the budget, at least. Like my point is just like it's amazing what they're doing with the budget they have.
Yeah.
Like the like I was talking to Carly about this just we were talking about how like remember like season 1 of the Mandalorian, they had like 5 like a 2-minute scene of them being in the ship, like in the Razor Crest, and there was like a kind of a quick battle scene for a second.
Yeah.
Like very almost nothing, and they're like a 5 to 10 minute extended scene that rivals anything we've seen in movies. It's wild, like what they're able to do with the resources.
Yeah, so, I mean, Filoni definitely leaned into the the starship battle, where it's like, no, we need to do wars within the stars, and with like this was an excellent one. I mean, they looked like exactly like World War II snub fighters, which is like,
I was gonna say, it's classic Luukean using the dogfight news footage, film,
leaned way into
that.
that World War II like air battle like aesthetic, and I actually feel like I mean Hati has her starfighter is like a little bit of a lower class Grievous starship, like that roadster look. That's the vibe right there. But I love that their gear is all like Clone Wars era. It just gives them a great aesthetic. They have that shuttle too that's like mid Clone Wars with the like globe on the front of it. It was like a separatist like shuttle. I don't know the model of it, but it's like parked at Cebus or whatever the name of that planet is, behind Bale Skull, and it looks beautiful and like but like I love the aesthetics, love the starfighter battles. You're right, man. And even like, it's really still kind of a collage for me. And I think they're going to keep leaning into that. But when they show the Rebel fleet with the A-Wings, flying by the ships, like very prequel era, like almost like episode 3, like battle, like they really like they must have tuned it specifically to like almost look worse, like to like grab that sort of CGI, like everything in focus sort of like look to things.
It was just like all the ships in the fleet, with this beautiful master shot. I
they fly by
stuff.
Yeah.
No, I think Shin Hati is like a really cool character, and honestly, like I can't praise Dave Filoni enough for sort of making this mysterious sort of like dark Jedi character. Like, and I love Balin's skull too. I just think they're so cool, and I think when she's flying around with the Clone War like headgear, it's almost like the shadows of the past and the shadows of the Clone Wars, and they're using this dated maybe technology that sort of doesn't register on the New Republic network or something, or database, and so it's like they have to use old stuff, or they have to use stuff from the Clone Wars, or what's also cool is the idea that like she's wearing the same sort of Jedi, headset that Anakin was wearing prequels, and it's like,
totally.
Is this just like some stock Jedi stuff that Balin and Shin have, or is this like, are they actually emulating like what the Jedi were wearing in the Clone Wars? Like, it's so I now have a lot of questions about sort of like those two characters.
I mean, if they're mercenaries, right? Like that might be all they can afford on the black, or all they can get their hands on the black market, or kind of.
But we also know Shin Hati was not a registered Padawan, and around the Clone Wars, I imagine everyone was being registered, and so like, where did that headset come from? Like, it's almost like is the Emperor. I'm interested in Balin's skull in particular because I watched the first episode again, and he seems to know about thrawn, and he seems to know about thrawn outside of Elsbeth, or basically, and like when Elsbeth knows that Ahsoka has learned about thrawn, she basically informs him right away that like someone knows about thrawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
he's on the inner
informed.
circle.
And so what does that say when he's informed right away that someone now knows about thrawn?
Yeah.
And why is he the first person to tell, basically? And why is he so important of a person to react to it? Like, it makes me question, like, is this Mount Tantiss Jedi? Is this Mount Tantiss
Could be
Jedi, Imperial Jedi stuff? And they're just emulating the Jedi. She's wearing the headset from the Clone Wars. Like, there's everything is a complete emulation of what the Jedi are, but it's all dark Imperial science. Basically.
Yeah, and they're not aware of
that they are clones
path, right?
Yeah, so.
Right. Or you could split the difference where he's not a clone, she is.
Yes.
Wow.
Right, where like he wants a clone army of Jedi, and these are really kind of first one off the bat.
Like, and likely untrue, and like
I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I'm at 50-50 on the clone thing. Like, I think it's possible that Baylan Skoll survived, and he's this mercenary, and he's kind of got Talon Card vibes, where he's like just survived in the shadows. And it makes sense that he surrounds himself with familiar gear, so he just like collects Clone Wars era, ships and weapons and that sort of stuff. Like that checks out to me. But it could also be like he was farmed on Mount Tantiss, and they're like, well, we need to give them some gear that they can use, and it's this leftover Clone Wars stuff. And like they don't know
he also hacks a scomp lock, like the locks of the droids hack in like all the movies, and I'm like, that seems like super advanced. I guess any Jedi can do that, but it just seemed like on another level. I was like, okay, that's amazing. Like,
the only reason I would like, similar to you, but I'm like 50-50, is they spent so much of season 3 of Mandalorian setting up cloning, and this is so interconnected. And the more I watch season 3 of Mandalorian, I'm like, oh, this is really just a prequel to Ahsoka. Like, in a lot of ways, just moving the pieces on the board to get Ahsoka in play. So I don't know. Like, I wouldn't be surprised either way. Which I love, which I'm so excited about.
Because it's direct mentions in Mando season 3. Again, Adam, I'm actually gonna just jump into that same ideology, because I feel like there's direct mentions in Mando season 3 of like Gideon being like, I now want to vest my clones with the Force, and so now we'll all have the Force, and I'll be unstoppable. And I was just like, okay, this is basically Heir to the Empire. I'm just like waiting for the other pieces to land on the board. And I think mysterious dark Jedi character that are supposed sellswords that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like it just
right after we talk about
Empire.
cloning the Force.
And Outbound Flight could have just been Balin's skull. Like if they redo Outbound Flight or something, I don't know, something.
They totally could. But I also wouldn't put it past Filoni just messing with people like us.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Right? I don't put that,
it's just
because that's what they did in Mando season 3, massive head fakes. Like massive head fakes through the whole thing. And this feels like that to me.
If it's a samurai tale, it's like maybe Shinhati's his daughter, and he's just like, I had a family and I didn't like the order, and I don't agree with the order's way. And it's also I don't go by a standard Jedi protocol. And it's just sort of like sad wandering warrior sort of story.
Because don't you like Balin's Skull, right?
Good as the Tantiss stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm sorry, it's just not as good as like just the dessert that is the cake that is Mount Tantiss and
the cloning. Because I feel differently. I feel like will be equally happy with whatever outcome they choose.
That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah.
No, you're lying, Grant, but I appreciate it. Like, pick your team. I love it. That's what you like. You want this deep dive connectivity.
Let's do it. If we're gonna do cloning, or the dark science of cloning, that's gonna be the focus. Let's just go there and explore that.
Here's the
thing.
That's
perfectly reasonable.
We are going there. Like, it is going to happen. Because of everything that's been set up.
And give me that stuff. Like, I'm down for it. It'll make
we got to get this. We got to get this. We
Rewatch
have to get to
100 times
Snoke.
over
Yeah.
if there's just some ancillary material that's like, yeah, Snoke is Luke, by the way. I'm like,
Yeah, we have to get to Snoke. We have season 3 of The Mandalorian. We are going full cloning soon at some point. The question is this part of it, or is it going to be later, or is it going to be part of the movie that he's working on? Like it's just a matter of
My
when, not
feeling
if.
is that it's going to be later. Like and it's
I'm feeling that as well.
And the payoff is going to be different. It'll be a Snoke payoff, or it'll be a different thing. Like they're laying these breadcrumbs now, but it's like it doesn't mean it's going to happen in the next thing. I mean, they need to build. I mean, they're essentially on like a 4-year plan until we get. It'll be 4 or 5 years until we get Filoni's movie. It might even be more. It might be 6.
And more now with the
Right.
Also with the
so
strike.
they're going to have to slow play this.
They're gonna have to play it, and I don't know if we're talking about like 4 or 5 years from now. I mean, I think the end result is Luke.
Yeah.
Like I like with what they're doing with the aging and all that stuff. It's just like, how do you not go into that right?
Wasn't that Snoke? Isn't that the long? Isn't that what?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing I'm trying to do here. Is I'm like, can we
Yeah.
just like make it that like Snoke is partially
Snoke
Luke?
is Luke.
Snoke is Luke. Luke survives whatever this confrontation is and ends up being Snoke.
That's
like
great.
that's how he got the scar. That's how he got
Right.
the scar, right? Like that's how we get to So, so the other thing. Oh, so the other thing I was gonna say is you brought up Talon Card
Love that character.
earlier. This is the thing that I think is missing from this series is everything. Like it is a very this is super Star Wars. Not the video game, but it's very Star Wars, right? It's perfectly like all the elements, except we don't really have the scoundrel
it's
element
squeaky
going
clean
on here.
Republic.
And
Right.
And Republic, and then we got
Jedi.
and then we got the Jedi,
And also it's like it's a new age Jedi. It's like a new discipline. It's not standard Jedi either. So it's like ultra good basically. So everything's good. Yeah.
So I have this I have the episode playing next to me as we're talking, as I always do, just on a loop, and like I keep seeing the shots of the cockpit, which is also amazing in Star Wars, and you have like Sabine and you have Ahsoka and you have Huyang, and it looks great, and I'm like, there's something missing,
right?
Like literally just a hole that could be filled by a scoundrel.
I mean, Sabine
which we still could get.
Be considered. She's not really a scoundrel.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of is. Like they definitely in the first episode paint her off, but like they're now moving her into the Padawan, the Luke role, and I'm like literally, I think and maybe they'll pick someone up.
All right, so let's play the game.
Right?
If they're gonna pick up a scoundrel, who do you want it to be?
I mean, Chopper's a pretty big scoundrel in my
yeah.
No,
he's a droid.
No.
sorry. I'm just, actual.
Yeah, we got Huyang.
Listen, I love Chopper, but
yeah, right. So that's like you're saying that's the sort of like
it's a missing piece
component. Okay, all right. That's
I think.
Well, Sabine, I would jump on the bandwagon that says Sabine is sort of providing that edge.
Yeah, for sure. I get that. I just think you need another humanoid to play off of in this dynamic.
Don't join.
Don't join. I mean, maybe a young
Benicio
DJ,
in there, just like because I think a slicer makes sense for them because they kind of have 2 pilots. I loved actually that Sabine ended up taking over piloting the ship and doing a better job than Ahsoka. That was impressive.
And I'm also like, give me a new character. Actually, just give me Talon Card. Like again, I honest to God, like they have not used this character yet in this. I'm like, why not? Every other random character has been made. So like, do they run across him in the eye?
Well,
like, did he run afoul, or is he running an operation with this group and then like they run into him in the eye and are able to kind of sway him over to their side? Right.
I would much prefer a Talon. So for Grogu, Talon Card is a smuggler king. I would say he has his own fleet. He's very savvy. He's smart. He recruits Mara Jade. He's very smart and fair, and generally very like light side good person. Even though smuggling is his job, but he's very clever and
He's a chaotic.
Yeah,
good.
very
Yeah.
Reminds you of Luthen Rail a little bit, just in terms of tactics and sort of like
tactician.
he knows he knows how to the dealings of all the planets he visits. And,
right. So yes, I mean I would love for them to like resurrect that character, though I don't know how you'd shoehorn him in at this point. You know who I really, 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 really don't want it to be?
Hondo Ohnaka.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no.
No.
Oh no.
No. It won't.
Oh,
that's
it's
skeleton
so going to be
crew, guys.
Hondo.
That's skeleton crew. Come on.
Oh
that's
no.
a different show.
Yeah.
No.
No,
I see.
And we
I
already
just
had
don't
to deal
think
with
He's
Cad
in
Bane.
Galaxy's Edge, like he's alive and doing stuff.
Crap.
I'm going to brighten your guys' day right now. I don't think Filoni can resist not getting the rebels back together in this show. And I think you might get Hera and Zeb rolling up the stage.
I mean, Zeb would be great. Zeb is a good.
Because Zeb's great.
I like the Zeb.
Actually,
not a scoundrel, but he's sort of a brawler.
He's a brawler. He's a heavy,
and
he's a brawler.
He would totally add that element.
It could definitely be Hera, Zeb, Chopper, and Jason. Actually, too would kind of fill that Ezra.
Jason would be the Kanan, the fill-in.
Kanan Ezra thing.
Oh, that's.
I mean,
and then Ezra's his master,
Jason.
and then Ezra trains him. I don't know.
Oh, that would be so cute.
That's too neat. That's too neat. Ezra's gonna be. I'm more in the Adams theory that Ezra's far gone.
Yeah, Ezra's damaged.
Something horrible's happened. An accident.
He is very damaged. But I like to say, I just was laughing how funny it would be if you brought in Jason Sedula, who's just like, I want to be a Jedi, and then like literally. Sabine sitting there, and like day one, he's just sitting across from me, going, "Oh, look at this! I moved the cup in my hand."
Actually, that is
like, come on,
yeah. Just like you little brat. But it would make sense for like Sabine to kind of like, he wants to learn. Hera doesn't want to let him. Ahsoka's obviously not going to do it, but Sabine's like, she has that like, rebel in her that's like, I'll teach you.
Like,
Screw them.
Sure you do. Like, I know. Like, sure you do. I know. Calm down.
Yeah. She's like, you're so cute. There's no way in hell I'm letting you do that.
Yeah, it's kind of exactly that. That's the text.
But I could see that happening, and I wouldn't hate it. Because Zeb looked, I don't know, he just makes me just like, I just want to snuggle him. Like, he gives me Chewbacca vibes in a lot of ways. And he looked so good in Mandalorian.
Yeah, looked very good.
But he's the whole budget, right? He's like the dragon in Game of
that's
Thrones.
the issue.
It's expensive.
I was surprised we didn't get a wolf on Lothal. I was hopefully we get that at some point because they're cool.
Well, they're leaning mean right now, but again, it's like you said with the Ming Vaz, it's like Hu Yang should not be going to another effing
Don't put him on missions.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Also, like, if they do jump, like, they need to go with the ship because if they can't leave the ship at this point, Hu Yang's in there, and like. They basically can't sneak aboard just, themselves. I think they need to stay with the ship. Because Hu Yang, right? Like, unless someone needs to come and take the ship and get Hu Yang out of there, like Luke or something. Yeah.
So this brings up another thing. Like, first of all, I don't want to downplay that. I totally agree. Like, there's a lot of logistical stuff. I think they could do it in different ways where one gets aboard the ship and then they jump, or they miss it and then they have to figure out how to get there. And maybe, riding Purgles isn't the thing. And so they find a... smuggler or something, whatever.
No, I think tucking the T6 in the Purgle. Like, I think it was going to be nice. Like the gill.
Yeah, I think it's either eye.
I think that would work too. And maybe like Ahsoka can communicate with the Purgle. Or whatever.
Have it go follow the ship or something.
Yeah, like we're looking for this person and they're like, yo, like Ezra's my boy, like hop on, let's go,
Or separated, like Sabine goes on the jump and Ahsoka away or something.
All those things could happen.
Yeah, or...
Yeah.
Or that's the first time we get any inkling of Sabine's Force abilities, right? Is because she can use her connection to Ezra to
communicate with the Purgles.
Will we see a Purgle jump in this show?
100%.
Yes, because we've already seen it in the. I mean, we've already seen them in hyperspace in Mandalorian, right?
Yeah, they're like tentacles charge up and then they're like poof.
Super.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So this is the other thing. This was another thing, a theory that I had. So the ring, the Eye of Sion. Do you think it's designed to snuggle because it's designed like a prequel era, like hyperspace ring?
hyperspace. Well, I was trying to figure out what it goes around.
Like
Yes,
it snuggles
100%.
around a Star Destroyer and can
Yep.
take a Star Destroyer.
Oh, or does it snuggle around a Purgle?
Oh, and well, that would be a hat on a hat, I think.
Right, I guess it would be, unless you can use that to force it to take you where you need to go. But I like
because
the Star
they dragged a Star
Yeah, I like that a
Destroyer
lot.
to this other planet, and so I feel like maybe to take the whole thing, they want to take the whole thing back, and so it can you could snuggle a Star Destroyer in there or a large ship or whatever, but something goes there.
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, that's a great, because I had the same thought, Ben. I'm like, I know this thing. It's like the same thing that we're on the Jedi Starfighters, right? Where I'm
on a
just
much
like,
larger scale.
And my brain couldn't wrap it around, but you're absolutely right. It's to get the Star Destroyer that Thrawn was on.
And get it back.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Grant? That
Good
maybe you could put
call.
something in that ring, in the Eye of Sion, and carry it through hyperspace.
No, I think it's a Easter egg for Outbound Flight, because isn't Outbound Flight have a bunch of hyperdrives around a large ship that's in the center, basically?
Yeah,
it's
but this
snugly in the center.
It is, but this one's going to be around the Star Destroyer.
Or maybe it is maybe they do retroactively tell that Outbound Flight story and bring that.
Well, remember
back.
it was like a republic.
Oh, guys,
bad air spacecraft, but
So we may have stumbled upon something here. All right. So if they're going into unknown regions or wherever, or actually no, sorry, another galaxy, and discover Thrawn, who traveled along a hyperspace lane with Purgles. It may have been the same lane that an Outbound Flight went on, that might have had Balin's skull on it, so that if we might get Balin's skull, find his own corpse.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. See, these are the payoffs.
That's how we get the
they're in
clone
air, but
reveal.
they're not. This is the sort of stuff that I would love.
Yeah. I think that's all there.
Finding your own history, being like, oh, I'm a clone, and then I'm a Jedi clone. That is crazy.
Okay.
And you had to start with us because you had us sealed and ready to harvest DNA, and on the Fortress Inquisitorius and other locations, they were ready to go. Those Jedi were ready to get cloned or for that process to begin. So yeah, that
makes a lot of sense. You guys have to pinky promise with me that if they do a massive Outbound Flight retcon, that
we'll read it.
That we'll read
Come
it.
back.
Yeah, we'll read it.
Yeah, dude, it's so good. It's actually a really fun book. It has a lot of process.
Yeah, is that a Zahn book too? Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So
that's another Zahn book.
I'm totally.
It's his first book in the timeline.
Yeah.
It is
essentially.
It's his first Star Wars
timeline. In the actual canon timeline.
Yeah.
Of Star Wars.
In the Star Wars canon timeline, but not his first. No. I mean,
I'm saying canon.
But in terms of
his earliest.
Canon timeline. That's the earliest moment he wrote about, which was kind of when he wrote it was kind of key because he actually was writing about prequel era stuff for the first time ever in that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Okay, so I have one more massive thing that I want to talk about. I've been maybe having some adult edibles and watching some watching Ahsoka. I've watched all the episodes multiple times. If I had my druthers, I'd watch them all again a third time in consecutive order because I'm so excited. Tonight I might just do that. But have any of you spent any time with the end credits, real time?
Yes, I have. It is a map of the multiple galaxies. I think it's the same sort of star map.
Right. And these are the Purgle migration routes, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
But
did you
notice the very, very, very end? All of the routes, and this is just in their Game of Thrones end credits. Right. They all end up at the same planet. At the end, so you're following one. Right, and then at the very end, it blasts out into the other galaxy. But when it arrives there, 4 other prongs arrive at the same time. So this planet, because I'm very curious about this, right? And I very much don't want it to be the solar system, or our solar system. But I'm thinking maybe because it also is why would he be here? You just know these Purgles bounce around galaxies all the time.
Yeah.
So why this
travel
planet?
so fast or so far that they have like time dilation occurs, and like their dynamic and behavior as animals is like highly abstract and complex that we'll talk about during the show. That's like, part of their fascination around them.
Yeah.
And that would be cool. And sort of like their migration routes almost look like the world between worlds, and like all the paths that are in there. And it's like, to me, I was just like, is this sort of the imagery, the graphic match imagery that Filoni's trying to draw, where he's like, look at all these paths that they travel just in the actual galaxy.
Right. But then,
will we get to territory where we're going back into the world?
But why do they all end up at the same place? That's what I'm asking you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, my answer is that like maybe this is like the Purgle homeworld or something, because it's like
right.
The Purgles could go anywhere. Why are they is everyone so like certain that this is where Ezra and Thrawn went? But it's like they're like, well, we know they shot off at this vector, and it makes sense. Like for whatever reason, they've seemed to have arrived that like they definitely went here.
Yeah.
But it's like maybe this is like the Purgle like birth planet or something, or system, and they make this pilgrimage back as always as part of their thing on this one specific galaxy. That's my theory. Because like, why else would I go out there?
Yeah.
And why are they so sure that this is where it is? I mean, in theory, right, you'd have to check every single node on that pathway to see if like that's where they were. But I guess if Thrawn and Ezra were in the galaxy, they would have heard, right? So
I'm literally watching it as you're talking about it, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 path lines that come directly to this planet, right? Like everything that. You're right. Everything that banks off comes there, right? So that is the core, the center, the something. Could be the Purgle. I mean, that also does add more evidence to my outbound flight thing, because it could have come off on a different tangent, but end up there. Yeah. Everything ends up there.
And it makes sense. Like if you were going to send an outbound flight, like where would you send it? It's like, well, we do have these Purgle maps. Like, let's just find out what's there.
It's the only route we have extragalactic, which just happens to always land on the same planet, which like I love this idea of the Purgle homeworld. Like that, of course that makes sense. Like that would be their migration pattern, right? Would always get back to this one place.
I think they need to do that. Like, I mean, it has to be relevant for some reason. And and you're opening up again another Pandora's box when you're just like, now we're going to extragalactic stuff. And I do think that this planet's not going to have the Force, and I do think that this planet may stir up sort of a hornet's nest when you get there. Both of those things make sense to me, but yeah, like why here?
That's interesting. Again, my whole theory is that I think Filoni might borrow a little more from Heir to the Empire and do like that Mercure planet where the Bisalamari are. Like that's almost where I think we're going, because I like a
but
planet
that was
where
in
like
the galaxy.
Force. Yeah, I know, but I almost would recanonize that where that's outside, because it's like the creatures there, and maybe the whole planet basically could be like a planet where it's a Force-rich planet, and like all the creatures on the planet sort of have these like Force interactions or negate the Force, or things like that. That would be so cool. And if the Purgles migrate there, it makes sense, because maybe they're sensing the Force energy, the life Force energy there. The life Force energy is just so powerful. Basically, like
they have to go
breaks your scanner on your X-wing. It's like there's so much life energy on this planet that I think that I hope like is out there, or possibly something that's borrowed from the Heir to the Empire trilogies. But who knows? I mean, we're in a red forest world now in Cetos, so like we're not going to a red forest. It's going to be a biome. I don't think it's a new biome of some kind, I imagine. So yeah, it won't be a red forest. It'll be something of some kind.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Exciting. We will see. This is like such an exciting series.
But
there might be
there
might be an Eye of Sion like episode next week though, like where we're really just.
Oh
no, those just the forest first. Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Next week
the
is
forest.
all
Forest fight.
The week forest fight. Then the week after is going to be probably the trip extragalactic, or it might just be infiltrating
the Eye of Sion
the eye,
or whatever,
and showing how long
then
the hyper travel was.
7 might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
Imagine it, intergalactic, like you're going. Sort of like.
Yeah, Grant, you were mentioning like real science stuff and science fiction stuff, which they never deal with, which is like how time dilates. Like, when you travel the speed of light.
A long time ago, Purgle might be a different age. Like, what I mean? Like, the Purgles travel vast distances and sort of like are away from each other and different.
Right. Did Thrawn and Ezra think they've only been there for 5 minutes? Like when you get there, like you could do some really wild for like time, like real sci-fi stuff out there, which would be fun for me because they never do that in Star Wars. But it might complicate things.
Would it be fun for you guys if like Thrawn this is all just a ruse and Thrawn has actually like always had the upper hand and it is already back operating in both galaxies? And like, would you be okay with that? Or it's like, do you want Thrawn to be, struggling to survive with Ezra somewhere? Like, because I'm almost thinking he's out there. He knows everything that's happening or something. Like, I almost feel like he knows all of this.
But I feel like Morgan Elsbeth would know. And like
she's like
she could just shake down Pelion and be like, "Where is he, dildo? Like, just let me know what's up."
Right, unless Thrawn has a reason to send them back to this place.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I don't know, but and is like communicating through these like sort of Force like messages to Elsbeth, because she's like a religious devout cultist who's like, no, my mind, my brain says that I'm hearing his call from another galaxy. I love that.
Right.
Too. That's really great.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's great and weird.
Let's get weird.
Could that just be Ezra? Yeah. That's what's weird to me is like, she obviously has the Force. She's, a Night Sister, so she has the Force. Right? I mean, it's just their interpretation, their magic. I have to imagine it's Ezra and not Thrawn calling out to Lady Elsbeth. Like, Thrawn is not Force sensitive, that's just never been canon.
How would he do it?
Yeah.
How would he do that? Yeah, I don't know. Messaging, maybe
but he could be doing it on behalf of
put
Thrawn.
Together some sort of basic comm system.
He's like, call out to this person. She will come find us. This is my person that I have for this, because she's, maybe she's his lieutenant that controls Baylan Skoll and all of his like Force people. So like that's like why Morgan Elsbeth, right? Like
the whole thing is like if the fleet went to Denab, like it was almost like a perfect way to lure the Republic fleet somewhere. Like if the fleet did go to Denab, is he waiting there with his cloak? Like I'm almost thinking at some point Thrawn is going to like shoot some turbo lasers from like cloaked cruisers and basically then decloak, and you'll see like the ship and be like, oh my goodness, he's had this strategic position on this planet or against these people the entire time. Like it's almost like it's almost like I'm expecting something like that. But
that tracks. That's
a
very
more
Thrawn.
riskier and braver and more interesting approach might be the like he's struggled to survive with Ezra on this planet, and he's like long haired, and it's like a whole like Thrawn origin again. Like it's it's sort of reset to like all that stuff that we like in the first Thrawn book, I think, or just Thrawn. I mean,
right on. All right, y'all. Anything else that we missed? I touched on all of my points that I wanted to talk about this week. Anything else that we didn't talk about?
Same.
Yeah,
no,
this is everything. One where I was like, this is going to be like a half hour, 45-minute discussion.
You guys had alluded to that in the text, and I'm like, I think I actually have other things that I want to talk about. Like, I will say randomly, David Tennant is having quite the year. So he has this. He has the second season of Good Omens, and he's coming back as Doctor Who, as the Doctor again at the end of the season. So he's like and David Tennant's just an amazing.
Yeah, talk about sick burns. I feel like Hu Yang dropped the most. Like,
yes,
there's like a million memes already for Hu Yang.
Yeah,
and he's like, I have several thoughts of my own about what's going on currently or whatever. I was like, this is amazing. Like, David Tennant.
Also, he seems like the loveliest human being in the world. There's this amazing clip of him getting being surprised in an award ceremony of getting like an honorary award, and like they just did all these clips and all these people talking about him, and he was just like actively crying. Aww. It seems amazing. It's just amazing. He seems like a sweetheart of a guy. Yeah, it seems wonderful.
Hu Yang is quite the opposite.
Yeah.
If you really want to see him, you want to see it real dark, whatever. Watch Broadchurch. He's really great in that.
Okay.
Boy,
yeah.
That's
good things about that actually.
It's great. It's a tough watch, but it's really great. Him and Coleman.
I watched a good piece of Broadchurch, and it was good.
Yeah. It's good and hard.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we did it then. Thank you all for hanging with us for this week's episode. We hope to see you next week for another edition of Cantina Chronicles.